and I'm gonna try the sobriety thing on my own, like on my own free will, and it'll probably work out. I can remember too. I got a shot. It's probably still around. It's called Vivitrol, and they told
Yeah.
me it's the opiate and alcohol blocker. So I won't be able to get drunk, won't be able to shoot dope, won't be able to take no pain pills, anything like that. And I thought that was gonna be the cure. I'm like, yo, I can just keep getting this, and I'll stay away from like everything. Um, 50, I had 59, 58, 59 days sober. I was like counting still. And I can remember I was watching American Gangster. I can remember watching like a scene where there was like mad like dope and shit around, and something like triggered in my brain. I was like, I'm gonna try it. I'm like, fuck it. It's been a couple days. It's been, long enough. I think I could. I'll just do it one more time. Um, but I still had like the Vivitrol shit in my ass, and it didn't work. I remember I shot up, tried, didn't get high, and I got pissed off, and I'm like, yo, that was like the final straw. Like it was like a sign that like I shouldn't do that. Um, Little did I know, like a year and some change later, I'd be right back to it.
That's crazy. Yo, hello, okay, my name. To be honest, 24 hours ain't enough. I need 36. So do me a favor, tell the devil to suck my dick. 1 + 1 is 2, baby. That's simple math. Stay fucking blessed. That's 1 + 1 is 2. Let's get it. That's 1 + 1 is 2, baby. Simple math. Because there's no L's, just lessons. 1 + 1 is 2, baby. That's simple math. Let's get it. Happy days, family. You are now tuned in to Simple Math, the podcast with Jonathan Erik. Today we have a very special guest on, a dear friend of mine, Michael Ryder. Grew up with him in Hazleton, Pennsylvania. We graduated high school together in 2011. It's my boy. I used to get drunk with him, used to get high with him, fuck around in the streets a lot. This young king has a wonderful, wonderful story. Got sober at the tender age of 22 after high school down in South Florida. Was ultimately the one to inspire me to go ahead and pursue the solution, which is the 12 steps and building a reliance upon a power greater than myself. Very excited about this. I've heard the story, but I still have many questions, and we got to answer to a lot of those questions here. So tune in, strap in your seatbelts, and enjoy the show. 1 + 1 is 2, and that's simple math. Let's get it. Welcome, everybody, to the first Simple Math with Jonathan Erik podcast. This is the Genesis episode. This is the first of what hopefully is many, of a good way to, give people the same inspiration that I get from a lot of the people who inspired me. We are presenting this live from the sadistic mountains of Hazleton, PA.
Yay.
Funny how everybody cross paths here, huh?
Facts. It's crazy. So here we are. I have my brother, of course, here, Vic. Y'all can't see him on the Facebook Live if y'all watching, because we're on a Skype call right now, but you can see me. I got Vic to my left, and then I got the one and only Michael Ryder to the right. Clap it up for him. I know you're probably having a rough week right now. Your Rams took a pretty bad loss.
They locked me up for 48 hours. I got out, and I'm doing better. I talked to some people.
Yo, real quick, did you notice how the score was the record that you had the whole year? It was 13-3. Didn't the Rams go 13-3?
Yeah, that just dawned on me. It's the first time I heard about. Like, I even acknowledged that. Holy shit.
I watched it, and I felt like, yo, let me tell you, I was at Wavy's crib, and I was like, if I was a Rams fan, bro, I was gunning, bro. I prayed before the game, like a legit prayer. I was like, yo,
he was. I was there, and he was really going for the. I mean, I'm not big on football, but I wasn't betting on anybody but Brady that night. You know what I mean? Like,
it's hard. The man's the GOAT. I'll give him his props for his due.
Definitely is hard, but I would love to sit here and watch football. Maybe we can squeeze it in, but let's get to the task at hand. Ryder, would you do me a favor, and can you just give me a real brief background? Tell us about yourself.
Most of you know, most of you turning in. Those who don't know me, my name is Michael Ryder. 26 years old, born and raised in Hazleton, Pennsylvania. Everything I can sit here and tell you line by line the story, everything, how my life went. Just very briefly, I had a good upbringing. Everything was good. Played sports at a young age. Did well in school. Was raised by my mother.
Right?
Huh?
We were linemen, right?
Lineman back in the day. I was a fat kid when I was younger. And I got skinnier as puberty and everything else hit me. But I always felt different growing up. I was the only kid of color for years growing up in my school. I always felt different. I always felt like I had to fit in somewhere. I always felt like I had to impress somebody. I always felt like I was never good enough. I would never amount up to what other people were, what the expectations set on me were, anything like that. There was always something missing from my life growing up, and I could never put my what happened?
Let me ask you a question. It's funny how you said that because I know me and you could like directly correlate and relate with this. It's funny how you said that you feel like you were never enough. Yeah, I could vividly remember us in high school, especially us three. I'm not even just tooting our own horse. Like, cut me off if I'm wrong. Like, people fucked with us, bro.
Yeah.
If you didn't like us, there was a problem internally with you because Vic was a well-liked guy. Like, he never had one problem with anybody in high school. I mean, you were a little cocky, and so was I. We all can be as mellow-tempered as Vic, but still, like, shameless plug time. If you fuck with your boy Jonathan Erik, make sure you go check out my brand new project, Song Cry, available on all platforms: Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal, Google Play, you name it, it's on there. I really was hoping, I really was praying on a new day. I really was trying to make it my new thing. I really was hoping. Now back to your regular scheduled programming, Simple Math the Podcast with Jonathan Erik. Everybody fucked with us. So to think that here you are at 26-year-old saying that you always felt like you had like to prove something, like when probably you had people in high school looking up to you. Because
that's funny because you say that, and like even going through high school, like it was like always like what can I do to still like like maybe these people, maybe the people I surround myself with, maybe something will like make me feel like good. So it was always like a game almost. I never could look at it like how you're trying to say was like I was looked up to or anything like that, because internally I never felt that. You feel me?
It is an internal thing. I know as far as like in my journey in recovery, like I'll constantly say this in meetings, like getting sober was literally only the half of it. If you look at the 12 steps in a verbatim term and like in a literary sense, I know you heard this being in South Florida all the time. You go to a million meetings or have gone to a million meetings. There's only one step that has the word alcohol in it.
Yeah.
The rest of them are just us steps. You know what I'm saying? So it's interesting how you say that. So for those who don't know, you grew up in Hazleton, whatever. In 24, how many times did you go to treatment before the time that you actually stuck to it?
So I've been to rehab twice. I've been in a psych ward. I've been arrested.
Go to that first hospital?
Yeah, I got sent to First Hospital up in, I think it's Kingston or Pittston, whatever.
Yeah, it's in Kingston.
Literally senior year. It was during, I can remember it vividly. It was right before 2 days of football, because that was my mentality. I was like, yo, I got to get out this psych ward. I remember doing push-ups in the psych ward. Like, I got to get out because I'm going to start this year. It's my senior year. So I got to get out this psych ward because I'm not like these people in here. I ain't crazy.
Right.
I just popped a couple Xannies and went nuts, right?
But you weren't shooting dope yet when you went to
First Hospital, no.
So
when I went to First Hospital, it was drinking, smoking weed, a lot of pills. That was like the extent of it at that point.
So let me cut you off right there real quick. Can you talk about a little bit how you might have gotten into the pills, like being in high school? Because I know that's a big thing now, where a lot of kids are they're listening to music and stuff like that, and that's all people were talking about. But this was 2010, this was 2009, this was way before it was being referenced like it is now. So I mean, like, how did that even happen?
So with me, it was like the group of people I hung out with, the people I surrounded myself with at that time, they had access to it.
Wait, Ryder, let me cut you off. Your mom's on the Facebook Live. You want to say hi to mom real quick?
And mom, I love you.
All right, go ahead. I
know you're gonna watch. I want to say something. I know you're gonna watch this, and I know you're gonna be like, "Yo, I was a part of all of it." So I just want to say, I love you, mom. Thank you for always being there.
I'm a Ryder. I love you, Michelle. We're doing good things now. But go ahead.
You know, the people I surrounded myself with, they had access to it. They were indulgent in it. And it felt like, you know what, if I could just let me see. I was at that point, you know, physically where like, yo, if drugs or something was offered to me, let's try it. Because like I said, there was something always missing in my life, and I always wanted to figure out what it was, and I could never find it. And for brief moments, time and time again, I would find a different drug or a different girl or something, and it would briefly fill what I thought I was looking for. So at this point in time, you know, the pills came around, and guess what? They did it for me for a little bit. They put the bandage over the gunshot wound, and they kept me whole for a little bit. But it wasn't enough, and it got to the point where then, you know, the weekends or whatever it may be starts to overlap, and it starts to become a weekday thing. And rather than it being a luxury or a fun, it starts becoming a physical habit now, to whereas I need to feel like this all the time.
I like how you said that, like the weekends started to overlap, because I could vividly remember, like, I'm an alcoholic to the truest sense. I could say that now honestly, and earnestly, and I could mean it, because, you know, when I went down to Florida, like the main problem was the pills. It was the perks, it was the Yoxis. But I could vividly remember me, the first time I ever took that first drink, the freedom that I felt, the same freedom that I feel now through the 12 steps and through God and yada yada. Let me ask you this: though the weekends for you started overlapping in high school, because the weekends for me didn't start overlapping until I was 22 years old. I could remember the Monday that I decided to take that perk when it was a Friday thing. It was a Friday, Saturday, maybe Sunday thing, and that Monday where I just said fuck it, and from there it was just all bets were off.
I can recall it, and I can look back on it today and know it's an excuse. It's only an excuse to like fuel my fire. Like I remember junior year of high school, my grandmother had died, and at this point, you know, everything was straight up to that point almost, and in my mind, and I'd only dabbled in like some pills and shit like that, you know, smoked weed during off season and drank and shit like that. It was very low key, and I can remember like when she died, like I felt like I had every right in the book. I felt like I had every reason to go do what I was gonna go do. And that's when I can recall it starting to overlap. Because I can remember after football season that year, it was like, you know, I don't have a whole lot of priorities now. Because football was always like school and football were my priorities in high school. And I can remember when football was done, it was like, all right, what can I move on to now? And at this point, the people I was around and shit like that, it was like, yo, let's party. I just chose the people I chose to party with, the people I was hanging out with and shit like that. They were into these party drugs. They were into the pills. They were into smoking weed. They were into chilling out and relaxing all day. And I felt like if I can, I'm part of those people almost in a way.
It's funny. I keep on saying I could remember, but I could deadass remember after your grandma passing, rest in peace. You picking me up at Vic's house when you used to live on 3rd. You picked me up in your grandfather's Focus, and we went out, and like I could say honestly, like I felt like, you know, you was ready to go hard, and I had already heard through the grapevine that you were going hard. I can remember like you, like when I was this is after high school, we were still in town. Real quick, for those who don't know, Ryder got a full academic scholarship, correct?
Yeah.
To St. John's. This is not sports. Not saying that he wasn't a good lineman, but he got a full academic scholarship to St. John's fucking University, which is a prestigious institution.
It was the only
that's crazy. I didn't know that.
College to accept me.
The only college?
That's crazy.
Yeah, because of the charges that I caught senior year, no school in Pennsylvania would even like consider me like being a student there.
Right. That's crazy. It's crazy to think, bro, because not for nothing, like now in life, you took a whole different route that, I mean, you went to school for it, but doesn't necessarily need schooling, only for certificates, I would say. Cut me off if I'm wrong. I'm ignorant to the barbershop shit. I just go every week to get my shit shaped up, but it's nuts. But I can remember you pulling up because I was selling weed I was selling a little bit of weed in high school, but like I didn't really get into it like a career until after high school. I can remember you hitting me up for something and you pulling up and you telling me like, yo, I'm fucking with these Dilatans now, bro, and they're fucking fire. And that's where it's at right now. You used to call them dog tags, right?
Yeah, dogs.
Yeah, he's like, yo, I'm
Yeah.
fucking with these dogs right now. They're fire. Me thinking like my heart dropped and my shit start racing because I'm still smoking weed. I'm drinking heavy, but like, you know, you drink heavy, like it's hard. It sucks because it's harder for like a true blue alcoholic to get sober than it is a drug addict because it's so shunned upon to be a drug addict rather than an alcoholic.
And I'll even talk about that, like the first time I went to treatment, like when we get into that, like, yo, that was my mentality. I went to treatment my first time and it was like, yo, if I could stay away, like, yo, Xanax, heroin, and the hard shit are my problems.
Right.
If I could come back, and you know, at first I didn't, like, getting out of rehab and everything like that, I didn't have the intention of being like, yo, I'm gonna go drink and smoke weed. Like, it would happen like a month or so afterwards, like, yo, weed and booze are socially acceptable. No,
So-
my friends,
So-
you guys, the other people who look down upon me for doing the hard shit, they're not gonna look down upon me for drinking and smoking weed because they're doing it too. It's okay.
That's a
And that
So-
wasn't the case.
So let me ask you. You said about going your first time to rehab. What put you? What happened that made you say, at least that first time, that made you acknowledge, I have a problem? Was it voluntarily? Was it something that you knew that you wanted to fix at that point in life, or
So
what was that like?
So this was like, I was 20 at this time. At this point, I was kind of like getting kicked. I wasn't even like living at my mom's house. I was like living wherever, kind of just hopping around, like never at home, like always running the streets, always doing stupid shit, bro, right? And I was actually in barber school at the time, and I was getting high when I was in school and everything like that. And there've been a couple instances where, you know, I'd fallen asleep, nodded out and shit in class, and the word was just spreading around, and I was so just blind to like what was actually going on. So my mom actually reached out one day. She like decided to like go through my room and like figure out, she's watching still. Mom, you probably remember this. I can remember like being like at like sitting in class like one day, and she like texted me and was like, yo, we gotta talk. And I'm like, what the fuck about? Like, I don't even like, I'm barely even there. Like, what are we gonna talk about? And through like the grapevine, like everything she had heard, she went through my stuff at home and like found like a bunch of like old like used up needles and plastic bags and shit like that. And I can remember like coming home and like seeing like that on the table, bro, and like my heart was crushed. Like at that moment, I'm like, damn, I like the game's up. Like I felt like I was like figured out, and like everybody already knew way past that. I was just the only one blind to it.
So
and
it's
she
funny
also-
because
Go ahead.
I'm sorry to cut you off. It's funny because
good.
when you say that, it's like, all right, to you it was a secret. To you, you probably felt like it was your own secret,
Yeah.
but it was everybody else's secret that they knew that you were doing it.
Yeah.
You
It was
know what I
honestly,
mean?
it was like, yo, like everybody's like, nobody's gonna like tell him. Like, let's see if he can figure it out on his own. And I'm like, yo, like in my eyes, I'm like 150 pounds at this point, like skinny as a rail. Like thinking like, yo, there's no problem here. There's nothing wrong. Like I'm going through a phase, right? That was one of my mentalities. Like I'm just going through a phase. Like I'll get over it. I can stop when I want. But I can remember going home talking to my mom, and she was like, yo, listen, you could take the help, or like you could just get the fuck out, and like just basically, I'm gonna cut ties with you at this point. And me at this point, I was pretty beat up like physically, to the point where I'm like, damn, you know what? Like an oil change, like a nice like little 30-day getaway will be cool. I was cool with that. And then somebody brought up Florida, and I was like, cool, because I'm gonna go down to the sunshine. Because right now it's like, it was like fuck. It was like June or July, and I still was like, oh, I'm just gonna go to Florida. Like it's summertime in Florida. It's gotta be lit.
Wait, so is this the last time you try to get sober?
Nah, this is the first. This is the first time.
So you went down to Florida your first time in treatment?
Yeah, I went to northern Florida. I was up in like the Panhandle, so I was literally probably about 30. I was probably like 45, 50 miles away from Alabama.
So you went up to Florida the first time. You did your treatment. You came back home.
Yeah, I did my 30 days out there. Like I said, with the intention of heroin, Xanax, Percocets, all of that. I'm gonna leave all that behind, and I'm gonna try the sobriety thing on my own, like on my own free will, and it'll probably work out. I can remember too. I got a shot. It's probably still around. It's called Vivitrol, and they told me it's the opiate and alcohol blocker. So I won't be able to get drunk, won't be able to shoot dope, won't be able to take no pain pills, anything like that. And I thought that was gonna be the cure. I'm like, yo, I can just keep getting this, and I'll stay away from like everything. 50, I had 59, 58, 59 days sober. I was like counting still. And I can remember I was watching American Gangster. I can remember watching like a scene where there was like mad like dope and shit around, and something like triggered in my brain. I was like, I'm gonna try it. I'm like, fuck it. It's been a couple days. It's been, long enough. I think I'll just do it one more time. But I still had like the Vivitrol shit in my ass, and it didn't work. I remember I shot up, tried, didn't get high, and I got pissed off, and I'm like, yo, that was like the final straw. Like it was like a sign that like I shouldn't do that. Little did I know, like a year and some change later, I'd be right back to it.
That's crazy. So that's your first time in treatment. Were you going to meetings that time?
I got out, and when I first got out, that was my intention. I was like, yo, I'm gonna go. I'm a drug addict. Like I said, I never had my mom even told me, I can remember, she was like, yo, you might want to go. She's like, what are you going for? She's like, asked me like, when I'm in rehab. She's like, what are you going for? And I like told her, and she's like, don't you think you have a problem with alcohol too? And I'm like, nah. It's never been like one of my big problems. Like that's just like a little side fun thing. So I can remember, I'm like, yo, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna go strictly to like NA meetings because I'm a drug addict and I need to be around other drug addicts who are trying to like live sober. AA is not for me because I'm not like them. So I went to like a couple. I can remember going to like maybe like 3 or 4 meetings, and it just wasn't. I just wasn't ready at that time. I can look back and say that like I just wasn't ready to get sober. I wasn't relating to anybody. I wasn't like those people. I felt like I was better than those people. I had been through some of the things that they were through. I was 20. I'm sitting in a room full of 35, 45, 55-year-old people who have been through some seriously crazy shit.
Right.
And I'm letting their story and external consequences of like their using and drinking keep me separated from them.
Bro, that's the thing that's like why I feel so blessed, bro. Because I came home from Florida, and you see the people who I got sober with.
Mm-hmm.
And for like the first 6 months, I was the youngest person there.
Yeah.
The closest person to my age was 30. But everybody was older, and they were like true alcoholics, you know what I mean? And it felt weird, but it's funny how like when you told me this too, it's like, whenever you're ready to stop digging, you put the shovel down. You make that decision. So I want to ask you, what made you want to make that decision last time you went to Florida? Like what did it for you? Because not for nothing, I have a funny story about that I heard it, when was it, on Thursday? I was with a mutual friend of ours. I think you can figure out who I'm talking about, right? And she was telling me the story about y'all driving on the turnpike on the way to the airport.
Yeah, a slump.
Do you remember this? Because I'm not going into detail.
So I'm a side note real quick. I remember she walked me into the airport, and I'm
talking about the ride.
Oh no, the ride. Oh yeah.
What happened to the ride?
I still owe amends for that. She knows who she is. I'm not gonna throw out. I love you. Thank you for everything. I've never when we do some crazy shit in active addiction and alcoholism and put people in some situations that they probably shouldn't be in. And I can remember I was like, yo, I'm on my way to rehab. Fuck this shit. I was like shooting up in the car. And like this girl had like never seen any of this. And
a cop drove by. What did you do?
I don't even know.
You're like this to the cop, like he's shooting up, bro, out the window. I'm thinking like, yo, what the fuck is wrong with him? Then she tells me how you're fixing. You did a buzz cut, talking about a fresh cut. My head. You had a straight razor in the car, using the little mirror, trying to get the spots that you missed. Fucked up. It's crazy, bro. It's crazy how you could think back. Like I could think back at the wild shit I used to do. Like even Vic. I mean,
Ah man, my memory's shot, bro. Like I'm slowly getting it back. I'm really good with some. I have a selective memory. I think I forgot on purpose all the shit that I've done in the past. But like, I think even Vic um, could recollect like the wild shit I used to do and like the lengths I used to go. Like I remember Vic. I'm gonna go there. I'm sorry. Cut me off if I'm doing too much. But I remember being in New York, right, and having Vic meet somebody for me and telling him like, "Oh, I'm getting the pills to flip them," when really they were just for me. I just got them for a discounted price. I really wanted to get them because I needed them. Like I'm in a whole nother state. I'm not gonna be home until tomorrow, and I'm thinking that far ahead. I'm thinking there's nothing wrong with it, and like I know Vic, and I know Vic was thinking like, "Wow, what the fuck is wrong with this kid, son? Like this, like he wants me to go out of my way to meet this guy who I really like. I'm cool with, but like." I really don't want to put myself in this position, but fuck it, you're my boy. I'm gonna do it because, we could go with the whole loyalty thing. I know if I tell you to fucking stand in front of a gun for me, you're gonna do it, and it's true. I'm gonna jump in front of it without even asking questions. I'm gonna jump in front of it, hope I live, and then after ask them why I did it. You know what I'm saying?
It's funny because it's funny because people don't realize like when you're and I'm sure you guys can attest to it. When you are when you are an addict and when you are an active addict, you don't realize that everyone all of a sudden becomes kind of like a pawn in your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
We lie,
like
cheat, steal, manipulate.
like
We
a
do
role,
it.
like a role in your life, and it's not even on purpose so much. You know what I mean? It's just you just don't even realize you're doing it. It seems like, right?
Nah, it is. Go ahead, Ryder. You were saying something?
There's like a mental awareness of it, but it's like, yo, like the urge, like the impulse, like the what the fuck, like the constant like haunt of like drugs and alcohol is like on your mind, and you're gonna like nobody's stopping me, bro. I always tell people about that, like, yo, like there's no like when I wanted to go get high or drunk, like there was no stopping me. There was nobody like to like I didn't care who you were. I didn't care like what our relationship was. If I had gained your trust, if you were in my inner circle, and if I had to use you as a pawn, just like Vic was saying, if I had to use you at one point, guess what? You had to get used because I still got to get mine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So you go down to Florida, you're in treatment. What made you? So what did it for you? Who or what made you when you got out of treatment and continue?
So I knew even before treatment, this time around, it was like I said before, the same mutual friend who drove me to the airport. At this point, I got to a point in my life, bro, where once again, I'm drinking to try to stop the dope sickness. I'm I'm using every day, still on top of it, trying my hardest to stop. I can't stop, and then I'm just continuing to dump shit into my body just to like kind of just to at this point just to like stop like this mental urge that I got going on, right? This constant voice in my head that's telling me like, yo, go do it, like go feel all right, go do some more, you'll be okay. Um, but I had gotten to a point, bro, where I was just completely broken. I can remember, and I always tell it every time I tell my story. I got to a point, bro, where I was literally laying in bed. I was like laying in the dark. I like called out of work. I was working at Michael's. I called out for like 2-3 days. And I can remember just sitting in my room for like those 2-3 days in the dark, like not shower, nothing, just like broken, like internally broken. Um, and I'm like, yo, I don't know. I don't want to keep going on this way. I can't live anymore. I wanted to kill myself, but I didn't have enough guts at that point to like do it because I'm like, yo, there's got to be something. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I can remember I reached out to that mutual friend of ours, and I was like, yo, I got to tell you something. I had to like, there was like a burning sensation in my chest. I'm like, yo, I got to get this off. I got to let somebody know what's really going on with me. And I don't know why, because that's not normally me. Because it's like even just relating back a little bit my story. I thought this was a big secret, and I like to keep it that way. So something came over me to be like, yo, tell somebody, get this off your chest. So I told this person, and she was like, what are you gonna do about it? She's like, I think you need to go get help. And like something in me was just like, yo, just go. It was literally like it was kind of like almost just it was like a blow of a wind, bro, in like the beginning. And I was just like, you know what, let's do it. But we're gonna go Monday because my check comes in Monday, so I gotta get my last little fix and then we'll go.
So you were
So going to
Go ahead.
treatment, going to treatment and getting out, it was like like I said, it was like a gust of wind, and I just kind of kept going with that gust. Everything that was like thrown from like that moment of like getting on the plane, going to treatment. I was like in treatment, and I was like, I got blessed, and the man, he actually works up, he actually lives up in Pennsylvania now. He was one of us, and he had like 5 years at the time. And I talked to him, and I related to him, and he was a younger cat, and he was just real cool and mellow, and like it didn't see like he just had a vibe about him that like
He was
drew
a
me.
patient or he staff?
He was my therapist.
And he works at you were telling me, right? He works at
He worked, I think, White Deer Run, I think, maybe somewhere out there.
White Deer Fun, for those who don't know.
White Deer Fun. That's my dog though, still to this day. But I listened to him and I related, and like I could remember just like, yo, he was like, it was, like I said, that vibe about him it drew me towards him. And about 14 days in treatment, I call this like now today, like through the program and everything, I call it like my first like moment of having my higher power, who I choose to call God, like come in, like put like the sign in front of my face and say, yo, this is where you need to be. My grandfather died about 14 days into treatment. And that's like I said in my story, like my grandparents and my mother raised me. And my grandfather was like the only positive male influence I ever had in my life. So him dying, and I was like, at that moment, I was like, damn, I gotta go home, and I gotta go be a son, I gotta go be there for everybody. I gotta go like be at his funeral and shit like that. But like
Did you go home?
Nah.
You didn't go home from the funeral, right? You stayed?
Nah, I stayed.
So
I talked to my therapist, I talked to my mom, and my therapist was like, yo, this is like the first time somebody told me like go pray about something. And I did. And I like went and I like prayed about it, and I was like, yo, it's like tell me what to like. I was like, yo, I don't even know what the fuck I was praying to. But I was like, yo, so show me some sign of like what to do here. Like, you know, whatever it is, show me a sign. And something deep inside me said like, yo, stay where you're at, and you're exactly where the fuck you need to be.
You know, it's funny you said that when you were praying, you didn't even know what you were praying to, and all you said was show me a sign. When I was in Florida, bro, that second meeting that we went to was Monday Night Men's. It's when you introduced me to Christopher F. I'm gonna hold his anonymity close to chest, but he's probably watching right now. I haven't seen who's on, but Christopher F. And he gave me like the 5 things to do. It was the pray in the morning, pray at night, go to a meeting, do the readings, call another alcoholic, call your sponsor. But the prayer was different. He said on your knees and out loud.
Yeah.
This is like a question and a statement, just like trying to relate to what you said. That first time you prayed, did you pray on your knees?
Yeah.
I'm just asking, like, for me. Yeah?
It was like it was kind of like, I don't know. It was just like it was a breakdown moment for me. I can remember like I had up to that moment, like I can remember crying like right before going to treatment. Like I said, like that, like laying in bed, like crying, like what the fuck am I gonna do? And this was like the first like sober cry I had in like years. And I remember like when I felt it, I was like, it was overwhelming, bro. And I like hit my knees and I was like, you know what, like please, like yo, I don't know what to do right now. I don't know how to feel about this. I don't know how to react to it. Like I need help somehow.
It's funny you
Now, can I? I'm sorry, but can I ask a quick question? In that moment, was there any urge? And I'm sure there may have been, was because I'm sure a lot of people deal with that. You know, you're in recovery, you're trying to do better for yourself, and then you know suddenly your grandfather passes away. Was there? How did you deal with the urges, if there was any, to just numb the pain the way you might have done in the past?
So I went and I can remember my therapist was like, yo, like he told me this in the morning. He was like, yo, I want you to come back around like 4 or 5 o'clock tonight. And he's like, I want to know your answer. Like they gave me the option. They honestly were like, yo, if you want to leave, we can't hold you back. But he gave me the suggestion. He was like, yo, I think you need to stay. He must have seen something in me that I didn't see in myself at that moment. But like I said, he gave me those little suggestions about the prayer and everything like that. So I went back and talked to him that night, and I was like, yo, I'm gonna stay. And then me and him talked about it. And he was like, how do you feel? He's like, do you feel like going and getting high and anything like that? And I'm like, nah. I just don't know how to feel right now, because I had never been through anything like that with like a sober mind at that moment, especially somebody that close to me. Because even when my grandmother died, it was like I was already like blotting out my like that thought with drugs and alcohol. But he told me, he was like, yo, he's like, I want you to talk to people about it.
Other patients, right?
Huh?
Other patients, right?
Yeah. He was like, yeah, I want you to talk to other people and ask around and see if anybody else has been through it. He's like, I want you just to keep expressing. And I remember I like went through like it was like the rehab was kind of like almost like a college campus in a way. It was weird. It was like dorm styles. And I can remember like going around, like everybody knew something was up with me. And I can remember telling people and expressing it. And the more and more I kept like talking about it and expressing it with people, the little by little I started to feel better about it, right?
So
Because it was just a way of expressing it that I had never done before. Because I'm the type, I don't like to talk about my problems. I like to kind of just keep sweeping that shit under the rug and allowing it to kind of build up.
Vic, you had something?
that's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy you say that. I mean, I just wanted to interject and say, like, for the viewers that's listening, you know, I'm sure a lot of people are here trying to figure out, trying to battle their own demons, whatever it may be. I think that really stresses the importance of community and how important it is to know that you can't do this by yourself. Like if you, it's hard to do this by yourself. You know, it's really important to have a community, people that you can speak to, people that you feel comfortable to express how you feel. Because if not, you're really gonna put yourself in a really bad position. Because I can't imagine if you hadn't spoken to that therapist and he hadn't gotten a chance to, you know, speak to you before you had to make that big decision, or even if you just didn't take that time to, you know, talk to anyone. Yeah, I'm not sure where things would have led, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It's the same thing with anything in life. Like, yo, if I'm going through something in life, whether it be in recovery, out of recovery, whatever it may be, if you're in recovery, if you're not even in recovery, it's crazy what a simple conversation with somebody can do. It really is. And the more and more I keep going through this journey, and the more I keep meeting people and interacting with people, I see that. It's crazy.
It is. The fellowship is important. There's a fine line between it. I mean, the fellowship is important, but you do got to build a reliance between a higher power. But you knew that. I just like to. But so I didn't know that actually. I because we never really spoke about it in detail. I didn't know your grandfather passed while you were in treatment. I thought he passed while you were in the sober house. So I'm gonna move forward now. So you're in treatment. You finish. You coin out or whatever. You go to halfway first, then sober living, or you go to sober living right away?
So when I was in treatment, I was in treatment with a younger kid than me, and having like that bond of like that, like him being a little younger, he kind of like had like that vibe of like, yo, like this dude's a little bit older than me. We're almost like the same age almost. It's like the older brother, little brother vibe. Like, yo, we're sticking this shit out together. I remember it was me and him. And I'm like, yo, where are you going after this? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know where I'm going either. We like found this halfway house in South Florida. And from like the pamphlet and shit online, I'm like, yes, this is perfect. Like they showed palm trees and the beach, and like it looked beautiful. And I'm like, yo, we gotta go there. So we got out. He got out first, like a week ahead of time, and I was like calling him, like checking in, like, yo, how's this place looking? Blah blah blah. He's like, yo, it's great. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. And my mind was already set. I'm like, yo, I'm just not going back to Pennsylvania. So I went, and it was kind of like a halfway house sober living all in one. They had like the stages. You know, you were there for a little bit of time. So like I got there and like had to do like the whole. Went to South Florida, and it was nothing like the pamphlet. No offense. it was. I thought
that's how Cameron Villas was, yo. I remember.
I always say it, like when I tell my story locally, it's funny because like people can relate to it. And if you're watching this, and like you know about Lake Worth, you know about fucking West Palm Beach. I thought South Florida, I was like thinking Miami, palm trees, bad Spanish chicks, beaches, beautiful weather. And I got dropped off at Cameron Villas, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yo, Vic, not for that. Yo, listen, this place is in the middle of the fucking hood, dog. What? Listen, my first day, so I went to I was in Cameron Village. So I don't know if I'm real quick. I always wondered this. This is for me too. I'm still pretty selfish. I don't know if I can consider myself a brother Cameron because I didn't really graduate, but you know, I stayed sober, but still being an alumni. The first day they let me out of that fucking house when I finally pissed clean, right? It must have been like the 6th or 7th day. I walked down to the Checkers right there on Military. Son, I'm walking up to the drive-thru. The first thing that happens to me, a car pulls up, and go figure, because I'm some young Spanish-looking dude. I guess I look good because Ryder just gave me a cut a couple days before. The first thing that happens to me, a car pulls up. Yo, you got hard? You got rock? I'm like, son, I'm going through it. I just took my first solid shit today, my guy. Get the fuck out of my face.
And the first thing you're gonna ask me is if I got something.
Yo, son, it was nuts. But not for nothing, Cameron is a wonderful place. I hear a lot of horror stories about places in South Florida, and even though nobody follows through when I tell them this, but I always direct them into the way of Cameron Villas, because it is where men go who want to get sober, because they kind of, like you explained it to me perfectly before I went down there. You was like, yo, they give you just enough rope to hang yourself. Yeah. Clearly, because I left and it wasn't like they tried to afford, like they talked to me, but I fucking Ubered out of there and I was gone. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that was it. So you're down there, and I know for you, I mean, I'm jealous of this. I envy this about your time there, because you were down there, and you were down there like with the core people you fuck with now. It was I don't want to say names, but you were down there with like about, I want to say,
know, they know. You can fucking
yeah. All right, so you was down there. I think Kyle T was there.
Yeah.
Right. Buck.
Yeah.
Buck. Was Giuseppe there yet?
Yeah, G was there.
He was in the big house. So you guys were all in the big house together?
No, so they were like, we all came in like a month or so, or like 2 or 3 months, like in between and shit like that. So, but like we were also like, it was all still like the beginning of the journey. So it was like, but it was like different, like different parts of like that journey, right? There was a lot of us though, and some of them are still even around to this day.
I know, like, not for nothing, I feel like that's like,
there was a vibe there, and it's still like there was like when I first got to this halfway, it was like I had always like y'all know my story, like I didn't get that chance to go to college because of like the situations that I put myself in, and like when I got there, it almost felt like I had finally went away to college.
Nice.
Like way, and that's the type of vibe it was. Like, yo, there was a lot of young guys, all trying to get. So it was like a big sober frat house. That's what they told me over the phone. And when I got there, I like seen it.
That's exactly how it was for me too.
It was like a brotherhood. It was a vibe. Like, yo, we were going to PHP. We were going to the beach. We were going to meetings. We were hanging out. We were vibing, but we were doing it all sober. And that shit, like, and shout out to my brother Justin. He always talks about it. He's like, yo, cats made sobriety look sexy. They made it look good. They made it fun.
That's a fact, bro. Because not for nothing. Go ahead. I'm gonna let you finish.
That was something I didn't want to be 22 years old, sober and fucking miserable.
Nope. Let me tell you something. One of the traditions for the fellowship that we attend is attraction rather than promotion. And you never promoted getting sober to me. You never promoted the 12 steps to me. None of that. The way you just carried yourself when you came back home to visit that one year was attractive to me, because you came back home before you were a year sober, correct? It was before you celebrated a year, or were you a year sober yet?
My first time I came back, it was literally like 11 months.
Okay, so you came home. And for those who don't know, I tell this as a part of my story too, because this is very important. This is like where it happened for me, like where it started, like my mind started going, like, and Victor was in this conversation too. Jabron was in this conversation, like constantly back in the day. I would always say like, yo, one day I'm just gonna book it and sleep on Ryder's couch because I know he's gonna save me. You feel me? And that's exactly what happened. One day I just fucking booked it. But anyways, I fucking you come home, and what did we do that night? Well, obviously the first thing I do when you walk into my house, I offered you every fucking drug on the table, minus crack, coke, and dope, because I wasn't doing that shit. You know what I'm saying? A ghetto motherfucker like me don't do crack, don't do coke, don't do dope. Go figure. You know, I probably kept on going. I would have done all three of them. And I've done other alternatives of those three drugs, but that's besides. I'm gonna digress. But we went out that night. We went out to the casino, and we raged all night. But Ryder didn't drink. Ryder didn't do anything. He didn't do no drugs. Didn't do anything, and it was attractive to me. Can you take me back to that first time you if I'm not mistaken, the first time that you went out down in Florida, and I mean like out, like not out as going out to use, but like out to like chill and shit, was with Stitches, right?
That was like the first big experience, like being like sober. That was the first like sober experience on my own. Because before that, like my first or second week in Florida, like and down in South Florida, like when I was living in the halfway, I can remember the one night, like we went, like it was like 2 or 3 of us, and it was like all right, we're just gonna go smoke hookah. Like, what can we do that's like sober and cool and fun? And I'm like, yo, let's go. There's this hookah bar down here on like the strip. It's Clematis, where all like the clubs are in West Palm. And it's like, yo, there's this hookah spot. Let's go. And I remember we were there at like 9 o'clock smoking hookah, and at like 10 o'clock, all of a sudden, like, yo, I see people start pouring in, and like a DJ setting up. And then literally in like 30 minutes, that shit turned into a popping club. And I was like, holy shit. I don't know if we should be here or not, but we're here. But the shit with Stitches, it was like 3 months into living in South Florida. And I can remember it was like 11 or 12 at night. I was like at the halfway, like scrolling through Instagram. I got a car at this point. Was working in the shop, cutting hair in the shop. And I was scrolling through Twitter, and I always followed this dude, Ink Monster. Shout out to Ink, my nigga. I can remember he was like, yo, I'm in Miami. And I'm like, yo, I'm not far from Miami. I was like, yo, let me just shoot my shot. And like shot him a DM. I was like, yo, if you need a haircut while you're down here, holla at me. And he hit me back like instantly. He was like, yo, pull up. He like gave me the address and everything. And I'm only living in this halfway house for like 3 months at this time. I got like 4 months.
Were you actively working a program at this point?
Yeah, I was going to meetings. I had a sponsor. I was still going to PHP, still talking to a therapist and shit like that. Like very mildly, but I was active in the program.
So side note, for people who are watching who are confused about this, he did this, but he was doing what he had to do to gain that.
Yeah, let me rephrase that. Everything that I talk about, like that I do, like I've always kept my program before any of it. And I'm gonna even tell you, like as I'm like telling this little brief story right here. So I remember I shoot to Miami, like all hype. I get fresh as hell. I'm like, yo, I'm gonna go down to Miami. I'm gonna chill with these, like this dude's like a West Coast rapper. He got a little clout out there. I'm like, yo, let me go see if I can like vibe with them. I can remember I get there and I go to like this hotel room, and the first thing these dudes ask me, yo, you know where to get some weed? I'm like, no, but I'm sure we can find some. I'm like, and like my back of my mind, I'm like, I don't want none. I was like, but I'm sure I can find you, because I'm like trying, like once again, like I'm trying to impress these dudes. I'm like, we can find some. Let's ride out. Let's go to the club or something. We'll find some. I'm like, club probably has drugs, bitches. We can go and get both.
Yeah, that's the worst, bro.
It's crazy because like in my mind, I'm like, yo, I gotta stay sober. But like I'm chilling with like dudes who like I've never chilled with before in my life. Like I've never chilled with anybody who, like at this point, Ink had like the song with Nipsey. Like he had a little like vibe going. I'm like, I never even, like, you know, Nipsey Hussle. I don't know. I don't even know nobody like that. So I can remember like we went to 11 that night, and Stitches actually met us at 11. There was like a bunch of bullshit because he was underage and he couldn't get in the club. And like eventually, like after some money exchange and everything, like they let him in, and like I paid for the whole night. I'm in a halfway house. I'm in a halfway house, buying tables at 11, which is like a real expensive strip club in Miami, buying bottles for these dudes, like just so I can impress these dudes, right? Like dudes I've never met before in my life, like doing shit that like was out of character for no reason.
Did you gain anything out of that, like for your career?
I built a relationship with Ink because I can remember that, like that night we went, partied, everything like that, and the next night I like texted him and I was like, yo, because they didn't shoot the video that night. That was just like a vibing night. I stayed out there till like 7 in the morning, drove back to West Palm in the morning, and the next day they were like, yo, we're shooting the video tomorrow, come through. Like they vibed, like there was a vibe, so they're like, yo, come through.
Vic, you remember that clip? You remember that clip that Ryder posted?
Yeah.
He like had the coke in that blue room.
It was powder. It was flour.
All right.
Flour around the kitchen. The next night they were like, yo, pull up. And then I can remember like calling Ink and I was like, yo, like, where you at? He's like, yo, come scoop me. So I was like, all right. So I drove to Miami again, picked him up. We like drove to like this real nice, it's called the Flamingo Building. It's really fucking nice, like nice penthouses in Miami. And they rented out like one of the penthouses to like shoot this video in. And it was wild. That was a wild night because like me being, and this was like a testament of like my sobriety. And this just shows you that like the shit I went through before getting sober. This just shows you that like you, JP, you know what I'm talking about, like that on a step one, like, yo, that internalization of like, yo, I don't want no part of this shit.
Yeah.
Because I went to this video shoot, and if you've ever been on a video shoot, there's a lot of drugs, there's women, there's a lot of temptation, there was booze, like it was like everything that my mind tells me like, yo, this is all gonna like work for you. In an environment where I'm like, yo, I gotta fit in with these dudes. Everything that my own will tells me like, yo, go for, I stayed sober through it all. I was offered drugs, everything like that, offered drinks, everything like that, and the whole time I was sitting like, nah, I'm good. And I literally went through that entire experience sober. I can remember like going back to the halfway house after, and these like people were like showing like the managers and shit, like the clips of like the dudes that I was chilling with, and they're like, there's no way this kid stayed sober through it.
They P-test you?
Yeah. Like 4 times, like within like the next day.
I know you said that you took that you went through the process of the first step where it's all internal and everything. But has there ever been a situation you could talk about where you probably have you ever put yourself in a situation after being sober where your mind kind of reverted and the temptation attracted you? Where it was like kind of like you don't want to, but it's like you feel it. You know what I mean?
It was probably about 2.5 years. I always go by like the timeline of like where like my sobriety was. It was like 2.5 years. I was renting a room out in Wellington in Florida, and I can remember I was like in this crazy like toxic relationship with like a girl who was in sobriety, and she started using, and like there was like a lot of lying and manipulation between the both of us. I told you about the story, Jay.
Yeah.
This was like
I didn't hit the warning.
Yeah, when you were like down here. And it was like real toxic, and I had like strayed. I was like living like a crazy like outside life, like outside of my sobriety. Like I was acting on a lot of like old behaviors while still sober. Because like JP talked about, it's not just about like the drugs and the alcohol. It's like this has a lot to do with like internalization, a lot with like internal work on myself about growing as a human. So I can remember I was like disconnected. I stopped praying. I stopped meditating. I stopped being honest with a lot of people in my circle, because I wasn't telling everybody as much as I probably should have been telling people. And it got to the point where like I was miserable sober because I had become so far distant from like what was really going, like from myself, my higher power. And it wasn't that like, yo, like I wanted to go drink, but I had become so miserable that it was like, damn, like if like the 2 thoughts that came to my mind, it was like, yo, I can kill myself, because that's always like one of the first thoughts that come. I'm gonna kill myself because that'll end all this shit.
Yep.
And then the thought of a drink will come, because like, yo, I don't want to die because life's pretty good at this point. But like, yo, maybe a drink will solve it.
So I know you were talking about how you stopped doing the prayer, the meditation and stuff like that. So was it that stopping the new behaviors that you learned, the positive behaviors that you felt like you learned, put you back in that place in life before you that got you to do drugs? You get what I'm saying? In the first place, you know what I mean?
That's exactly what it was. Is yo, I had reverted back so fast because like all these new things, all these new tools that I'm given, I stopped using them. So now my mind don't know how to go and like try to pick up other tools or anything like that. Like, no, I'm gonna go back to what I know works for me. I'm gonna go back to those old survival instincts almost. And it got scary. I can remember it was a night again, bro. I'm like laying in bed, and this is 2.5 years sober. I'm like laying in bed crying, like what the fuck, bro? What's going on with me? What's wrong with me? I can remember texting my mom, like asking her, and I remember she sent me like this long ass, like heartfelt text, like heartfelt, and like I could feel like something in me was like, yo, I know she's crying. I'm crying right now. Like I knew we were vibing, and like something right there was like, yo, you got to get back to it. you got to get back to what was working for you.
So you fell into this slump,
Yeah.
say because of relationship, right?
Not even because of the relationship. It was because it happened before even that. It was like more of a, it was more just like like life gets good, bro. When you get sober, life gets good.
Right.
You start getting a lot of shit. You start getting the materialistic things. And from what I've seen in my journey, I see a lot of people revert back because the external gets good and they forget that it's the internal work that's making these external things happen.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. That's what happens with me a few times in sobriety.
It's funny how you say that, because I can remember you telling me this story, and I was in a slump, and I remember me getting into this slump, but it was because of a relationship with a person who I shouldn't have been in a relationship with. Yeah. Because she was also in active addiction and trying her own thing and trying to find a way into this thing, and I just couldn't find it. And the way I got back onto my spiritual plane was not only going to meetings are important, but was doing the work after the meeting that is necessary, on top of the prayer, on top of the meditation, which you helped me with like the stuff on Spotify, the guided meditations. But I did a 5th step with somebody. Somebody read their 4th step with me, and I was like the receivee of the 5th step. And I remember, you remember this too, I was flying up 309 from Mountaintop on my way back home from Hazleton, high as a kite, with no drugs or alcohol, because I just did this 5th step with somebody who, let me point this out. This was, and I mean, I don't have to point out that I'm not racist, but this man was one white. He was in his mid 40s, and from an external, we had nothing alike besides the simple fact that we're both alcoholics and addicts. And when he read that 4th step with me, our lives correlated so fucking much. It was insane, bro. And like, I'm seeing the relief in him, and little did he know, I probably got way more out of that than he got out of me.
I love that. I love that. Speak on, because I know I mentioned how important community is. Yeah. Speak on how like important it is to help other people and how that affects your journey. You know, because I know he said that. You know what I mean? Because then I know you did that for JP, and I know and I know it made a positive effect. You know. So
that's like any 12-step fellowship, when you go through it, and I love the men I look up to, the men that have guided me along this journey. They always say like, "Yo, we give back what was so freely given to us," you know, because somebody took their time, their effort to give you something for no cost. This shit doesn't cost $1, bro. Don't cost nothing. Just a little bit of willingness. So for you to go through this process and then not give it back to somebody else who's seeking it, it's like, yo, you're spitting in somebody's face. Like, yo, you're stealing. You're robbing from somebody. And for me personally, I've known, even like early on in this journey, you know, 6, 7, 8 months, the fact that like I was like on fire to like go and help somebody. I was like on fire, like, yo, like I found like the way to like live, like God's blessed me with like the way to live sober, like have fun, like enjoy life. Like I want to share this shit with other people.
Right.
And that was like in the beginning, and then like it's branched and grown ever since then to even now, to where it's like, yo, it's not even about just helping people get sober. It's about helping people change lives, bro. It's watching people's lives change. One of my sponsees is he's one of the guys I took through the steps. He's flying to Italy right now.
Shout out to my boy Greenberg.
Hopefully his girl's like not watching anywhere, but it's probably gonna happen by the time anybody sees this. He's about to hit him. He's about to like drop down on a knee and propose. Like, bro, crazy. That's not me. That's not anything that a human being can do, bro. This kid was just as hopeless as I was, and simply by going through a book, talking, building a relationship with God, going through this, being a part of this fellowship, bro. Like you're watching lives change.
Damn, son, you gave me goosebumps.
Can't emphasize enough, bro. It's like so much more than just about being sober and staying away from drugs and alcohol. This shit changes lives, bro.
Can I say something? Is the reason I don't have goosebumps because of the whole proposal thing. Like, that's cute and all, but the reason, like, when I'm getting chills right now, like I got butterflies flowing through me. I told Vic this because I want him to be a guest. He's probably gonna be the second guest if he's back in time. It's funny how you said that. Yeah. It's definitely God right there. when I'm in Florida, right? I'm down there November. We share the same sobriety month, but he's a year ahead of me. I remember him getting his first year coin from you, me sick as a dog at this meeting on Tuesday at Cameron Villas, dying, smoking fucking Marlboro Reds because I don't know why you don't smoke Newports or smoke Newports.
Oof.
Watching him get his coin and watching his parents there and his mom. I don't know if it was him telling the story or his mom, but just like sharing a story on how he would constantly go in and out of. This kid's been in what, double digits amount of treatment centers.
He's been away a lot.
Constantly AMAing means like leaving against medical advice with girls going on rippers, fucking racking up the credit cards, racking up bills everywhere, just leaving a trail of wreckage. And then here we are, what, 2 years later, and he's about to get married. The kid's successful, he's smart. Like, he was a shining light for me when I was down there. When I first met him, I was in the office with like Addie, probably Greg and Kyle at the time, and Justin came in and he's like, "Oh, JP, you're Ryder's boy." Yeah, automatically love because you're his spiritual mentor, his spiritual guide, the person who took him through the 12 steps. So I guess I got a lot of love off the strength that I was Ryder's boy, bro.
Yeah.
Not for nothing. Like, people gave me money and everything, son. Like, I got $5. Yo, damn, son. This is a good memory, right? Yo, rest in peace to my boy Mike NATELLI, man. He was my roommate when I was down there. Homeboy gave me $5 to go into the vending machine to get me a Powerade my first night. I was like sick and I couldn't sleep, and he gave me cigarettes, the whole nine, bro. Crazy. The camaraderie is huge, bro. Yeah. The camaraderie, like I'm big on the God dependency because there are times where the only thing, most of the time, probably 98% of the time, the only thing that's stopping you from picking up that drink or drug fix, joint fix, or pill is God. But still, like what helps you get through those like little times and what build those lessons is the camaraderie, bro.
And like, I heard it even like early on. I heard it, and it's like, yo, I would hear people even to like this day. I still hear like people will be like, yo, my higher power, God, like has a funny way of working through people.
Right.
And a lot of the times in my life, like, yo, like he physically can't be here, so he puts these people in my life to kind of like give me signs of like, yo, there's good out there. There's something working in my life that's not me. You're one, even you being one of them, JP. It's like, yo, like the fact that like we grew, like went to high school and everything together, and then like the fact that like our paths came back to where like that's not like that's like it's weird because like, yo, you, like thinking back to it, freshman year, like we would have never thought that.
Hell no.
We would have like that would have been like that would have been not have been like what the purpose or like what we would have been thinking about. So the fact that, you know, fucking how many years later it is that now God's like, yo, here's why I've introduced you. Here's why I've had you build this bond over these years. Here's why you were put in each other's lives.
Yo, have you ever thought about it like that? Like, I know I constantly find myself in a deep thought, especially in gratitude. When I think about it, like I could think about it with my relationship with Victor. Like, you know, he'll stab fun about like how we met and how we first hung out, but not for nothing. Me calling him, bro, started this shit, bro. We've been friends for over 10 years. We set on a career path together. Like, our whole lives are based on home or around each other, bro.
Yeah.
Like, not for nothing. Everything we do, we move in it as a unit. As far as music, even with the other shit too, like just with life and with you, bro. Like, who would have thought? Like, if you would have showed us this video, like a real quick clip of 2017, JP and Ryder. Nah, son, I don't.
It would have never been thought. Like, it's always, and it's one of those things like that. I could stand behind. It's like, yo, people are put in your lives for some reason.
Absolutely.
Everybody you meet, for some type of reason. It's up to, like, they're put there. It's up to you to figure out where that blessing is that person's been put in your life.
Right.
And I've had it.
That's crazy to say. Can you maybe talk about a story or let us know about maybe a person who was super significant during your recovery that you know, you can name them if you want to, if they want to remain anonymous, that's cool. But can you talk about them and talk about that relationship a little bit?
I got two that come off the bat, and I'm gonna go one by one. First one, JP knows him, Joey Gomes. R.I.P. to my dog Pancakes.
Damn, R.I.P.
I was my, like, bro. I can remember meeting this kid. I was in halfway with Joey, and I can remember like it was like we were in halfway, and like, yo, we were going out the night. Like, a bunch of us would like go out, like a sober group. We go to the clubs or whatever, and we just go hang out. And I can remember this kid like just got to like the halfway house, and he was like still like fucking like slummy and like sick and everything like that. And I can remember somebody like brought him to my car because I was the only one with a car, and they like brought him to the car and they're like, "Yo, he's riding out to the club with us." I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Fuck this kid, bro." I'm like, "I don't know him. I don't like him. I don't want shit to do with him." But he came with us that night, and we built our relationship from there. And bro, that kid helped me out so much, just on like little shit that like I can sit here and go on and tell you stories of like our relationship. I got in a car accident, and we were going to a meeting. And I can remember I called him and I was like, "Yo, you gotta like skip the meeting. I got in a car accident. Come pick me up." And like he picked me up that night. Like he picked me up from the car accident. He was like, "Yo, fuck it, we're gonna go to the casino and like forget all about this shit, right?" Because that was like our goal. We were gonna go to a meeting, then go to the casino. He's like, "Yo, we're gonna forget all about this shit." We go to the casino. I lose fucking a bunch of money. It's just a terrible day. So this shows you how God comes up, right? Terrible fucking day. Car accident. Lost a bunch of money in the casino.
Fucking idiot.
And I can remember we're on our way back from the casino and we get a call. Another one of our friends who had been missing for a couple days. He was out getting high, ripping and running. His mom calls us, and she's like, "Yo, he showed up at the house. I need you guys to come here right now." We showed up at the house, ended up getting him to go to treatment that night.
Is he still sober?
No, I don't know if he is or not. That's not up to God. It's not up to me. It's that's God's path for him. But the fact that like we were there, like at that moment, and we got that call at that moment, like me and him being together, it was crazy. Like it was like, oh damn, like yo, this was meant to be. Regardless of the shitty situations that led us up to this moment, look what has happened.
Yeah, God gave you that perfect. Right, God gave you that perfect opportunity to be of maximum service, and that's what it's all about.
And I watched Joey struggle and come in and out and get sober and then go back out and get sober again, and then it just got to a point where he couldn't get honest with himself, and he ended up passing away, and it hurt. But he made a lasting impact on my life that I'll never forget.
Same
because
here.
it was somebody who I wanted nothing to do with in the beginning, and I grew to love like an older little brother, bro. Like it was crazy.
It's funny. You made a big impact on my life too. I remember. I know you probably remember this too. I'm down in Cameron. I'm still going through it. I'm laying outside of the right next to the pool. I'm in the lawn chairs or whatever. Yeah. And Joey G introduced himself to me because he's like, "Yo, you're Mike's boy." I'm like, yeah, I'm JP. Nice to meet you. He's like, "Yo, man, how you feeling? I heard you came in. Like, I didn't go to when I went down to Florida, I didn't go to treatment. I skipped all that. I just went straight to the sober house. So I'm like, that's my treatment. That's whatever. I'm on the lawn chair. I'm going through it. He's like, "How do you feel?" I said, "I feel like shit, bro." He's like, "All right, here's what you do. You need some popsicles. You need some milk. You need this. You need that. You need this." I'm like, "I bet." I text you this big long list.
Yo, because he had been through the same thing. He kicked that Cameron too.
Right. So he tells me all this shit. I'm broke and you're my bank at this point. I hit you up. You're at work. You did not give a fuck. You replied to that text with a simple, "You're wildin'." End the conversation. Back to hell for me. I'm just there, bro. Like, damn, son, I'm fucked. I ain't got no money. I'm not getting no popsicles, no milk. Like, I'm gonna just go through it right now, bro. Like, it's like a fad in Florida. You walk into a meeting, you're freshly out of treatment, you're fresh, you got that first haircut, you got your brand new vape off of the $200 that your parents just sent you. You smell nice. Like, it's a bunch of bullshit that goes into those meetings down there because it's so overpopulated. And I know you probably face this. I didn't have to face this up, man. I'm beyond. Like, when people ask me, like, yo, how did you ever get sober in Hazleton? Especially like working in the treatment center. If like you're from the Pennsylvania area, you know that Hazleton is the hub.
Yeah.
And I was one the addict, I was one the dealer. I was like both sides of the spectrum, probably more the addict than the dealer. But the fact that I got clean and sober in Hazleton is amazing to people. But I was actually at an advantage to way more people because when the meetings are small, the biggest meeting I'm gonna go to is probably like 30, 40 people.
Yeah.
And I could still freely speak my mind when you're struggling. You could go into meetings and you could talk your bullshit and cry and all that shit. In Florida, you don't really get that opportunity. And then you have to avoid getting like sucked in to that bullshit where you're just going to meetings to like try to spit fire or show off to that one girl and like do your thing.
To
like
impress somebody else.
Right. How did you separate yourself from that so you could build what you have now?
I got blessed with a lot of men in my life who weren't really about that shit. And like even like in the beginning, of course, bro. Yeah, like I said, I was 22 years old when I got down here. 22 years old, fresh to Florida, and I can remember like going to my first meeting and like it was like 60, 70 people in this meeting, right? And I can remember there was like girls.
What was your first meeting?
I went to EDI.
Oh, so we had
it was like a Thursday night I got down here. And it was like a Thursday night, 8:30, and like for those who don't know, like the 8:30 meetings are like mostly beginners. Back then it was like mostly treatment centers, halfway houses. Like there'd be like 20 vans outside, just full of people, squatted out. So you go in this meeting and there's like a bunch of young people, bunch of girls, bunch of dudes, like everybody, like like 3/4 of the room's there for the wrong reason. The other like quarter might be there to get sober, maybe. I just hung around people who like had like what I was seeking, because I had like me, I had been around like people who were cool before. I had been around like dudes who got girls. I had been like on the party scene. Y'all know how it was. Like, yo, we were fucking wild. Like I had been like that before. And I knew like coming down here, like there was like something about me that was like, yo, I don't really want to be too much involved in that. And I seen like how those dudes who were like going to the beach and getting girls and like not really going to meetings and shit like that, I seen that they were like there, and then like a month or two later, like they were gone. And like a month or two later, like, yo, that same person's either getting high or dying. And I didn't want that. And that didn't seem attractive to me. What seemed attractive was these dudes who were like going to meetings, working steps, helping other dudes, and they're moving out of halfway and they're getting cars and they're getting apartments and they're like living productive lives sober. Like, and that was more attractive to me than the other side of the coin.
Right. You suck with the winners, which is simple. Like, I'm big. Like, that's what I preach to most people.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, you show me who you fucking with, and I'm gonna show you exactly what you're gonna be.
You talked about it in Simple Math. Yo, show me your top 5.
Yeah, bro. Because yo, like, I mean, how simple? I'll break it down real fucking simple. You want to get real simple for the millennials out there? I'm one of them. We are all one of them. Yeah. Show me your fucking MySpace top 8, bro. I'm gonna show you exactly what the fuck you're gonna be.
I'll show you who you surround yourself with.
Yeah, because that's where a lot of people all fall short. They're like they want to do all these things. Like I used to work in a treatment center. I was just a tech, but I feel like I'm like, being a tech in a treatment center is like being a dishwasher in a restaurant. You touch everything that goes through there.
Yeah.
You have contact with every patient, and that's the one thing that I would preach to the guys, even the girls too. Like, yo, you gotta stop fucking with these losers, bro. When you get out, like, going to fucking meetings with your fucking vape and you're there in your meeting like this. Like, yo, when I go to a meeting, my phone goes on do not. Well, my phone doesn't always go on do not disturb, but my phone goes like this, just like that. If it rings constantly, I put it on DND.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If I'm on my phone, it's a quick to Vic in a meeting. Doc, and he's gonna testify to that.
It'll be a quick check to make sure it's no urgent importance.
Right.
And if it really is,
I was at a meeting the other day and I saw a kid who we grew up with. I'm not gonna say his name, that we grew up with, who's been through the fucking ringer, who ends up in treatment as I'm a staff there, gets out, fucks up again, goes to another treatment center, gets another fucking chance, and is back at home. He's a couple months sober now, but he's at the meeting. He pops up. I was at my home group. It was a celebration. He shows up and he's on his phone the whole fucking time. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I got nervous for him. I'm thinking like, yo, your life fucking blows right now, bro. Like, you literally dodged death 14 million times and you still not taking this shit serious. It's like people don't understand the hard work that you put in the front end is gonna always pay off in the back end. I remember, like, I'm saying, like, Vic remembers, I'm going to 2 meetings a day. I'm doing my shit. Like, there was a little time in my early sobriety where people didn't see me. I was doing one of 3 things: work, in my house, meeting, or with Maurice working on the steps for a long time. But here I am, like, you know, like, it's important because if you see all 3 of us walking down the street, you would never say, oh, these 2 don't drink or do drugs, especially if you see it in the club, especially me.
Super funny. I'm in a gas station earlier, right before I go to my home group, and it was me and this dude. He was he had to be like a construction worker or something, bro. Dirty, like, you could tell dirty, like, just got off of work. Must have smoked a fat L, like, right in his car. Right, I'm in the gas station getting an energy drink, and there's me and him cashing out at the same time. And there's this lady, obviously she was on drugs, like, definitely into him, and she, like, tapped me on the shoulder and was like, "Yo, let me get whatever you got." And I'm like, "Shit, let me buy some of whatever you got." And I'm like, I like look back there and I'm like, "Nah, you got the wrong one. I'm sorry." And it's funny, like, that's funny that you say that. Like, yo, like, you see us 3 walking on the street, like, yo, you ain't gonna think we're sober. Like, wanted to tell it, like, yo, you barking up the wrong tree, sweetheart.
Facts.
It's just funny because, like, yo, like, that even, like, just like that thought process of, like, yo, somebody being like, damn it, yeah, he's definitely got the weed on him.
It's true. So you're 4 years sober now?
Yeah. January 27th, 2015 is my sobriety date.
Congratulations.
That's only by the grace of God.
That's a fact. Amen. That's the only one who could do it. I'm huge on that too. People don't get that.
I actually just picked up another medallion tonight at my home group because of, like, circumstances with the Super Bowl, and on my anniversary they forgot that to give me a medallion. So tonight I actually picked it up.
How was that?
Congratulations, man. Congratulations. I'm super stoked to hear that.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So how's life now? So what are you doing now? Can you talk to the viewers about, like, what's your daily regimen?
My
as far as,
bro,
like, how do you?
It's crazy. Like, I can remember, and even, like, y'all know, y'all have been part of the story, bro. Y'all know, like, yo, I moved to Florida, and, like, I can remember, like, my only thought was, like, yo, I'm gonna be a barber. Like, that was, like, my thought. Like, yo, I'm gonna go and, like, I'm gonna, like, focus on cutting hair and shit like that. And I was trash, like, hot fucking trash. My boss always tells the story.
Yo, I was thinking about this the other day. I'm gonna cut you off real quick. Just hold that thought. I was thinking to myself, there was a point in time where I would not let this guy right here near my head with a set of clippers, bro. And
shout out to everybody who did back in the day. Yo, y'all, I don't care. If you ever need a haircut, call me. It's on me anytime. Whenever you're near me, whenever I'm near you. They know who they are, bro.
Facts. Now you're like,
I was jacking cats up. And they were still supporting it. So
that's the truth right there, bro. Now you're, like, in my trusted top 3 or top 5 of barbers that I would let touch my hair. But go ahead.
But it's crazy because, like, yeah, like, my boss always tells that story. Like, yo, I rode up to the shop on a bike, sweat my balls off, like, just like a young kid, bro. So, like, in a basketball jersey. And today, bro, I manage the shop. I run day-to-day operations for my man Andy over at Dapper. Shout out to Andy, man. And that man's never turned his back on me. Gave me a chance when nobody else saw me fit. Shout out to him for sure. Now I run day-to-day operations in his shop. I run a shop of about 10 guys, making sure that everything runs smooth. I'm trusted more than anything, bro. I got keys to the business. Trusted with money, the safe, everything, bro. It's crazy. I put a lot of my time into that. I put a lot of my time into my craft. I've really fallen in love with not only just the physical art of cutting hair, all the other aspects of it too as well. So we talked about this, those simple conversations in that chair that build up upon it. I'm gonna tell you a story a little bit about like something that just happened like a couple days ago. Like the vibe of it. Like I've always been in the sports. I've always been in the music. I love movies. I love all those things, and I get to talk about and talk shit to like dudes. Like I get to like experience like much more than just the actual physical art of cutting hair.
Right.
That's one of the blessings of it. That consumes a lot of my time. I still go to meetings constantly. I hit my 3 regular meetings: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Every night I'm at a meeting unless there's something other that I need to be doing.
Like if the Rams make the Super Bowl.
Like if the Rams make the Super Bowl. And even Wednesdays, if I'm not doing step work Wednesdays, I'll go hit a meeting on Wednesdays just to pop in. And I'm meeting with guys after these meetings for the most part. I'm meeting with sponsees. I'm taking guys through the steps, the same things I've been doing since the beginning, because it's worked up to this point. And I'm one of those people, and they talk about good fears and bad fears.
Mm-hmm.
The good fear that I have is I'm afraid to see what happens if I stop doing that, because that's one of the few things that I've continued to do throughout this entire process.
Yep.
Like, yo, even like when I talked about like earlier, like the 2.5 years, like, yo, like the thought of suicide or drinking, like the mental breakdown, like sober, I was still sponsoring guys. Like I was still going to meetings. I was still doing those things. So I was like I might have been hanging on by like an ass hair, but like, yo, like that shit was strong.
Facts.
So I'll keep doing that because I don't want to find out what happens. I don't want to keep putting my toe in the hot water, bro. I don't want to keep putting my hand on the stove and try not to get burnt.
Yeah.
So I keep doing those things. I try to keep that. I don't do it perfectly. I'd be a liar to say if I do. I try to keep that conscious contact with God. You know, I keep him in the forefront most of my days. I can't say every day because I'd be lying to you, and I'm not gonna lie to you. I have the faith. I know the acknowledgement is there. The awareness that God is the guiding force in my life today will always remain constant.
Right.
Every time I picked up my medallion, that was the first thing I said. This is only God.
Amen.
I ain't got shit to do with this, bro.
It really is, bro, because you can't pinpoint it on not one person, not one. Like you could, all those people did was like tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it and continue working on that relationship because he's the only one, or it or she's gonna be the only one who's gonna save you, which is God. It's funny you said that. Like that the only good fear you have is that. Like I'm the same way. I fear getting into that insanity again where I'll pick up and I can't tell you what happened. I'm just drunk, I'm just high, and I can't tell you how the fuck I got there. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the shit that people fall into. Like the other night I did a simple math about it. I had a drunk dream, and it was the oddest bunch of people. I forgot who it was, but like it was an odd group, and I popped a perk. It was an Oxy actually. It was like an M30. The little blue joints, and I got high, and I'm there like, yo, what the fuck happened? Scared, bro. In the dream, I'm scared, and then I'm high in the dream too, because I remember being high. I remember the warmth. I remember I started smoking cigarettes back to back to back. It all came back, and then I woke up, and I'm there in my room, and I said, oh, thank you, God, bro. I'm like, I must be doing something right because those things only come up for me when I'm doing something right. When I'm going so hard